want to kick us off?
Sure. Okay. Quickly, speaker view. Speaker view. I don't know if I can do this. Yeah. Okay. So, welcome to Interactive Tools for Distance Blended Learning, which I think we're all going to need, with Sue Klemmer. And I'm Catherine Fogarty. Sue had earned her BA in chemistry at Wesleyan in 1975. She taught on the southern tip of Lake Michigan as a volunteer for a year. She went to Carnegie Mellon for a PhD in theoretical physics, but had fallen in love with teaching, yes, and left after a year. She taught in a parochial school in Pittsburgh for 7 years, went to the University of Maine to get her science teaching credentials, and worked at Camden Rockport High School in 1990, which I believe you're still there.
Yep.
And she teaches mostly chemistry, honors college prep, tech prep, alternative and adult ed. But these days she also teaches college prep and project-based physics. I've got two of these. That one goes on and on.
That's enough.
Okay. Let me just say she is the Northern Division Chair of NEACT and has instituted chem chats that are wonderful, and I recommend them.
Thank you, Catherine. All right. I've got several technologies to share with you today, and I'm going to be really upfront. The first one that I'm going to share with you is the one that I'm least experienced with, and we may have technical difficulties, but I'm going to start us off with something called Pear Deck. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Pear Deck, but my administrator used it just before we went to COVID, and it was like, oh wow. So let me share my screen. And you should see here that I'm in Google Slides, actually. You could do this out of PowerPoint, but I happen to be in Google Slides. But instead of saying present, I'm going to say start lesson. And that is going to convert my slideshow into what's called a Pear Deck. And the first thing it's going to ask you to do is to go online and join my slide deck. So is everybody comfortable with not having your Zoom fill up your whole screen? You know how to get out of full screen for Zoom? Does anybody need help with that? Okay, so make sure Zoom isn't holding up your whole screen, because let's see if we can get this to work. Notice you could do this asynchronously with your students. I'm going to do it live with you. So you want to go to the website joinpd.com, and when you get there, this random bunch of letters is what will get you into this particular Pear Deck class. I have let you, by the way, join with any name you want. When I do this with my students, they have to use their real name and not, you know, cool girl number 5. 9, 10. It's telling me how many are connected. I think we have 15 in here, so.
All right, Sue?
Yeah.
How do I get it so I can not lose you in Zoom, but I can, because I'm on a MacBook Pro.
Yep, that should be okay.
So what you're saying is that the slideshow took over the whole screen?
No, I see all the pictures of those participants on my right side, yep. And I have somewhat of a background, which must be your background. I see your slides, but how do I?
You need to get onto the web.
Okay, so.
Hit escape.
Oh, I do? Just hit escape?
That'll
Yep.
probably solve your problem.
But I'm not going to escape Zoom, am I?
Nope. We'll just get you so you can get to what you want on your screen.
Okay, got it. All right.
And then you're going to go to joinpd.com.
Okay.
joinpd.com.
All right. Thank you.
And then do you still see the letters here?
I wrote it down.
Okay.
I'm old fashioned.
Woo!
So,
Yeah.
side question. I know it automatically assigned me an animal. How do you actually change your name? Is that possible, or is it just because I'm not part of your school crew that I can't do that?
I think, and this is not a technology I've used a lot, you have an option to say students have to join with their school ID, and I turned that off. And so I'm not sure how that works. I'm going to hit start class at this point and see what we get. So that's a great question. I have not used this very much. I've more been learning it.
Yeah, I think you're probably right because we don't have school IDs. That's probably why it just automatically assigned us avatars. Thank you.
So do you now see interactive tools for blended or remote learning?
Yes,
Cool.
I do.
All right. So this is the first slide in my slideshow. And this next one, oh, that's awkward. It's cutting off the bottom here. So this is my school. I teach at a public high school on the coast of Maine. It's got about 725 students when we're all here. For a while, I've been teaching honors chemistry and some different levels of physics. My classes have a maximum of 20 students in them. We actually added extra sections and slimmed things down, so I think I have 18 max. This year we are teaching mostly in person, but students are going to have these little plexiglass screens between their seats. Our periods have shortened. We started out at, last year we had almost 2 hours in lab classes, and then they got rid of all the extra lab time because they said, oh, you're not going to be doing any labs. So it went down to what everybody else has, which is about 75 minutes. And then they shortened everybody up to 60 minutes in order to add sanitation time. So it's going to be interesting. I have half the time in my chemistry class that I had last year. So we'll see how far we get. There are 9 science teachers in my department. 3 of us teach chemistry, 2 of us teach the honors chemistry. Now, here's the first interactive slide.
I have to go.
So you should be able to drag an icon. My problem is it's not showing up at the bottom of my screen here. If you get to this screen in your presentation, you should be able to drag that little pin and place it on the map. Here we go. Let's see if people can do that. I'm not seeing any show up on my screen yet.
Well, mine I was able to because I'm in New Hampshire.
I put mine up, but mine isn't on one of the colored regions because I'm not there right now.
Okay, oh, maybe I have to, I have to show responses. There we go. So now we can see where people are from all over. So you could do any kind of a draggable. I just copied that image in. You could have people draw on things. That's one of the things you can do in Pear Deck.
I like that you don't have to actually have a particular area that they can actually do something outside. That's helpful.
Right, and there's a draw function that's a separate kind of a slide. This one is a multiple choice.
Well, hold on,
So
I'm
you-
curious because I couldn't actually see it on the live deck, only on your screen. Is that
Right.
normal?
My screen is, the teacher screen is going to show the responses.
Oh, okay.
Your
Thank you.
screen is where it's like your clicker,
Gotcha.
all right? So that's an important distinction, that the presenter screen, so I would put that like on my big screen behind me so kids could see it. So this one you should be able to type in A, B, C, or D, and when I show responses, we'll get a little bar graph.
No, it actually is not type. It's choose the multiple choice on the side.
Oh, okay.
You just
All
have to
right.
make sure you're not on the speaker screen. You're on your actual Pear Deck on the side because
Right. You got to be on yours. I forgot which one I chose when I made this. There are different kinds of slides. Let's see, we've got 23 people in, so just to move us along, so now on my slide, you should be able to see the little bars. So if you had, and you could do this like, how comfortable are you with this topic? I need more time to finish my group work. I mean, anything that you could think of as a multiple choice. So let's talk about Pear Deck. It is what's called an add-on for Google Slides and PowerPoint. So you actually go to Pear Deck, and it's got a nice title, peardeck.com. The basic version is free. The fancy features are really pricey. It's $150 a year. If you get it individually, there are some school deals. The differences between the fancy features and the basic one is how many different kinds of questions you can ask and some analysis stuff. I think the free version does pretty well. So you can set up a poll. You can set up a multiple choice. You could set up something where kids type in text, an answer, an idea, which populates screens. What's really nice about this is it turns what's kind of a static, passive PowerPoint presentation into something where, particularly for remote students, they have to respond. I mean, in class, you can always pause your presentation, turn to your class, ask people questions and so forth, but it's harder to know whether your remote students are engaged. So this way, you know whether people are listening to you. So it adds a little pizzazz.
All right, quick question.
Yep,
I noticed that when I answered the questions, I couldn't see all the class answers, but I could see it on your screen when you projected it.
That's true, and that's always going to be true.
To get that propagated where the kids can see it after each question, or no?
No.
Okay,
no.
thank you.
The responses are only going to show up on the teacher version. So the teacher shares their presentation with their students, and you present or start lesson with Pear Deck as opposed to just present, the usual show slideshow. You run that presentation on some kind of a big screen separate from what the kids are using. It can be asynchronous. So you could have the situation where you tell the kids for homework to go do their Pear Deck, and then when you come back on the next day, you show the responses. So you can do it that way, which may be helpful for those of you that are wholly remote. And again, as was pointed out, the students respond on their devices, but the results will only show up on the teacher device. Down at the bottom of the screen, and it's really awkward because it doesn't want to show me that, there is a tutorial. There it is. That's the best tutorial I found for working with Pear Deck with Google Slides. It's slightly different with PowerPoint. So if you want to use it with PowerPoint, I would go onto YouTube and ask for Pear Deck tutorial for PowerPoint, and you'll find, there's a bunch of them. And there's a bunch of them for on the regular Pear Deck one. This one, I simply like the way the teacher presented it. It was particularly clear. So that's Pear Deck. I kind of want to have time to run through a bunch of things. Do people have questions about Pear Deck before I go on to the next technology?
Do you think that this is better than like a Google Forms?
It's different. I don't use Google Forms. I kind of like this one in that the kids put it in their response and then they have to wait and see it on the the teacher screen. So again, they have to be semi-conscious while you're doing this, as opposed to I'm going to show you my virtual screen and go off and walk the dog, right, and not be in class. One of the new rules after the spring, for the fall is that students do have to show their faces when they're participating remotely. No more virtual backgrounds.
Yeah, that is going to be such an improvement because I had the same problem.
And we do have kids that have anxieties related to people seeing their home. And we do have some strategies for, you know, like to hang a sheet behind you. You know, there are ways to getting around that. But we did have kids that were, and some kids are it's interesting. The kids that are shy were very nervous about having their face up in front of everybody on Zoom. They could hide better in a classroom than they could on Zoom if their face was there. And so we're dealing with those as well.
My school system says it's a privacy issue and you can't make anybody show their face.
Yeah, and I get that, but boy, then I have no idea that they're there.
Oh, I know. It's horrible.
Now, you're at a private school as well, right? Because we're allowed to tell our students that they're required to show us their faces.
This is a public school, and they are required. Okay, the next one I'm going to talk about is Padlet, which some of you saw in one of the plenary presentations, I think, yesterday. And we're going to start by doing it. So you're going to go back to the internet and you copy and type in this god-awful, they don't let you shorten up their...
You just put the link in the chat, then we can copy it.
Okay, great. I knew I was going to forget to do that. Hang on.
Fabulous. You can just click on it in your...
I'm trying.
No, I mean, we can. I just clicked in your Pear Deck.
Okay, it should be live. It should be live. And you're going to add a note on Padlet. So you should be able to just click on this and it should open up in your...
Yes.
I would have to stop screen sharing to put this in the chat.
It'd be great if you would do that.
Okay, let me I'm going to do that for a moment. And then I'll go back to it. All right, so then I need to go here. Give me a moment. There we are. Go to, and I stop screen sharing, so over here. There it is. I'm going to go back to screen sharing. So take a couple minutes, take like 5 minutes, make a post, play around with what you could do on it. If you have time, you can go to Padlet.com and get a free account. This is one thing that is free. And ask me questions while you're playing.
So what did you use Padlet for?
I'm going to get to that after you do this, if you don't mind. I'm going to have everybody play with one, and then I'll show you the different ways that we've used it.
Sue, is Padlet part of like Google? Is there, the reason why I'm asking is because that my school has a lot of restrictions on what we can use in terms of like, is any information from a student going to be shared? So it has to be everything that's pre-vetted.
Padlet is totally independent and totally, the Padlets that you make are private. Only kids that have a link can see them.
Okay.
So it is protected in that way. Great question.
So Sue, the other question is it always just like this where you go to a link, or can kids sign in so you can tell exactly who's typing what?
If kids have an account, then their names will automatically show up. So if you get the kids to all get free accounts, or you do it through your school email, then their names will automatically be associated with their posts, unless you choose to make the posts anonymous. That's an option that you have.
Thank you.
You end up anonymous right now because we're all just coming in from the outside.
So one other thing I noticed is you can't comment on anybody else's. Is that correct?
That's because I chose that option. So let me actually go to the next slide here and talk about some of the things that Padlet is good for. It's basically a giant sticky note board. So if you've ever had your kids do sticky notes and post them in places, that's what this is doing. I like it because there's a pretty small learning curve. You know, the kids will get this very fast. The column version is just one version of how to set up a Padlet. I like it for, you know, what do I know before something? What do I learn during something? What do I now want to know because I've learned something? You know, the KWLs or KLWs, depending on how you do them. You can just put in the first column, have kids do that, and then at another time put in the next column and have kids do that. There are other formats that are free-flowing where kids just post anywhere. There are kinds where kids can put arrows from one post to another post to show connections, like I've sometimes had kids do with sticky notes, where they all post an idea and then they find connections between them. You can choose to require your approval before a post shows up. When I went to a workshop on this, some of the teachers, the middle school teachers in particular, said this was really important. And you have to know your student body. Are they going to post something inappropriate? Then you're going to need to require your approval. Of course, that takes away the instantaneous part, because it takes a while to do that. You know, it's a little slow, but that may be important to you. The experts suggest not allowing students to like other posts, which is an option, because it turns into a popularity contest. You know, how many likes do I have? But commenting on other students' posts is permissible. So if you were using it to share, like, what are our hypotheses or what are our explanations about what we just saw, you may want to turn it into kind of a discussion board and allow students to comment on other people's posts. Like, yes, you know, I think your hypothesis is supported by evidence ABC, or no, I'm not sure that your particular explanation explains why, you know, it turned blue. So that's an option. The only limit with free is that you only get to run 3 Padlets at a time, and then you have to get rid of those. You could take a snapshot out of them and store them, but you can't have more than 3 running at the same time. $8 a month gets you unlimited Padlets and also folders for organizing those unlimited Padlets. We've seen our system administrators use Padlets to get responses back in big faculty meetings that cover multiple buildings. It's an interesting way to gain some stuff. So that's Padlet. And it's just like, okay, we used a discussion board, we used something else, you know, it just adds variety. There's a delicate balance I have found between overloading kids with too much new technology and doing it the same old every day, and then they get bored. So you got to balance those two things. Any questions about Padlet? Okay.
Sue.
Yeah,
so
go for it.
That so in other words, you can't with the one that's free, you can only have 3 Padlets, period, and then you can't keep them because you can't get any new ones. Correct?
Right. Right. What
okay.
you can do, what some teachers do, is take a screenshot of a completed Padlet so they can store that and then set up something new. So that way, you know, you've got a copy of it if you wanted to keep it for some reason.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Sue.
You're welcome. I imagine most of you use Kahoot, yes?
No.
No? Oh my goodness. Oh, okay. We're going to have fun then. Kahoot is an online game that can be used all kinds of ways. We're going to do one that is social emotional, which is a selfie Kahoot. And I'll explain more about that when we do it. I'm actually going to start my year with one that's a bunch of selfie questions about me, and then each of my students is going to have to make their own, and each class will start with one of those so that the kids can get to know one another. When they're not all in the classroom at the same time, developing a classroom culture and getting to know one another is really slow and painful, and you have to give up some instructional time to build that relationship that might happen more normally when everybody is there. Oops, I see a typo there. Academically, I use Kahoots to review at the end of a unit. It's like a bunch of review questions, but it's a game. You can, if I run it, I ran it through Zoom when we were all remote and recorded it. You cannot record a Kahoot itself, but if you're playing it through Zoom, you can record on Zoom, and then the review questions are up there with answers are up there for everybody to work with. You can also use it as a pretest, like what do people know about this topic before we start, or what are their math skills related to this topic before we start. So before I go over the big details, I again want to mention that there's two different programs here. This was the toughest thing to learn when I first was playing with Kahoot. You as the teacher or student who wants to create a Kahoot goes to this website, Create Kahoot It. That's where you make them, and that's where you see reports. But when you play the game, you go to Kahoot It, and that lets you into the game. Kids love this, by the way. This is so popular among my my special needs kids, my honors kids. Everybody loves this. So what I need you guys to do right now is to go to, and I'm going to get out of screen sharing for a moment and put this in the chat. You're going to go to Kahoot It, and you're going to wait, and you're going to see a PIN number to join the game. So let me stop sharing for a moment and put that in oops, go away. So I've just put in the chat, there is the and I have to go now to share my screen, and I'm going to my Kahoot.
Need a pin.
So, oh yeah, and it has really annoying music. Hang on. So there's the PIN number. Once you get into Kahoot It, it should ask for a game PIN, and 541716 is the game PIN. And I'm seeing a list of how many people have joined. There are a million Kahoots that are already made that are available to look at, academic and non-academic. I have taken some and then modified and added my own or started from scratch.
Can you turn off the music? Is that possible?
I did turn it off on my screen. You probably are going to have to.
I don't hear it either. I'm just asking because I hear that this is similar to Quizlet Live. I know their music is also awful.
So if you could still see my screen at all, there is an adjust the volume. There's kids who actually adore this music, like Jeopardy music, but I find it annoying after a while. All right, we're going to start. So there's the question. So you need to respond by tapping red, yellow, blue, or green, right? You should see those little bars on whatever device you're using, and that's what you tap on.
That's the question.
So where did my great-grandparents immigrate from? And this is one that's a multiple choice where you can pick more than one.
Okay, so you need to look at the teacher screen in one and then flip
No,
back
you just,
to your
your screen should give you the question and everything. Oh, mine ended us too quickly. Sorry about that. I didn't give us enough time. So my teacher screen is the only one that's going to give you the responses though. So 13 people picked Germany based on my name, Klemmer, yes. 2 people picked Ireland. My mother's family is Irish. My mother's maiden name was Alice Eileen McMonagall. So yeah, I'm half Irish, half German, which means I have like no melanin. And in my next lifetime, I would really like some, because after 15 minutes in the sun, even with SPF 50, I burn. So I love my ancestors. I love my ancestors, but they should have lived somewhere closer to the equator. Okay, next question. Oh, and it gives you, the scores are based on how many points you got right and how quickly you answered. So Pam at the moment is at the top of the podium. So this is where the kids that are competitive love it, because after each question, it's going to tell you who's ahead. All right, this one's a true and false, which is another kind of question that you can answer. And you could choose how much time you give people to respond, from 20 seconds up to 2 minutes.
Is there a question?
Okay, so once again, when I look at my student screen, I can only see the true and false. I have to go back to the teacher one to see the actual question.
Really? Usually you can see.
Yeah, that's an issue.
Okay. All right. Yeah, usually I'm projecting this on a big screen anyway. So the kids are looking at the big screen and then they answer on their device is kind of like their clicker.
Right. So I'm having the same problem. All I see is the true false. I can't see the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the question should look on my screen.
On
The
her
question.
Zoom. And you have to remember that red was false. That's it.
Yep, and just scroll back and forth between the two.
How would you do this remotely then if the kids can't see the question?
Because you're going to be, the question, you should be able to see the question if you've got a split screen going on.
Yeah, I don't have a split screen. How do I split my screen?
Okay, oh, are you working on a tablet?
No, I'm working on a desktop.
Well, then you shouldn't, make sure that,
Okay, so first you have to go to the upper left-hand corner.
Yeah.
Make sure that you exit full screen so that you're in partial screen, so you have more than one window in the same place. Are you on are you using a Chrome or are you using Explorer, or what are you using?
Chrome.
Okay, so on Chrome, there's the green button. Click the green button so you can see more than one window at the same time. So that it has the downward arrow.
Okay, it's okay. So there's a way that the kids can do it. That's all.
Yeah.
And if you click the green arrow, it actually shows tile window left and right.
Okay.
And if you tile window left and right, you can actually have a split screen where you can see both at the same time.
Okay.
One of the things that I am planning time for at the beginning of the year is to make sure that every one of my kids can split their screen. Because particularly if they're working from home, but occasionally if they're, and everybody's going to be working from home at some point, because I'm sure we'll have a flare up and we'll close down. So I think that's something that it's worth taking time. And as just happened now, you don't have to know how to do it on every device, because chances are somebody in the classroom will be able to show whoever it is how to do it on their particular device.
Gotcha.
So, Sue, if you were to assign this instead of choosing teach when you started it, would it come up differently?
Yeah, so the kids would see the question and they'd put in their answers, but they wouldn't see what the group responses were until you pulled it up on another class. and I can't remember whether, because I haven't done it asynchronously except once, if you do it academically, I can't remember whether it tells them whether they're right or wrong. I'd have to play with that.
Darn it.
All right, Cool Chem is now at the top of our leader post.
Oh, God.
We had a history teacher who retired a couple of years ago, and the students asked her what she remembered from World War II, and we laughed about it because they just have no sense of time.
I was 24 when I told my students I was 54. And they said, no, you're not. You're only like 48.
We had a teacher whose older sister came to teach with us for a year, and they had an unusual hyphen last name. So pretty soon the kids were saying, like, are you guys related? And he told them that she was his mother, and they believed it for months. Of course, he was really good at that kind of a game. So yeah, I started teaching in the 70s, 1979.
I graduated from college.
So this is an interesting kind of a question, rank ordering. And I think you could see academically how this could be really useful.
Fiction order.
So it looks like they can change their answers on this one if they need to.
Yes.
Yeah.
While people are answering this, when this was assigned asynchronously, I used Kahoot still in the classroom, but I switched to using quizzes more because I could assign that remotely easier, even when we were in the classroom, because they didn't need an app. Do they still have to download an app for Kahoot, or did they kind of change that given the COVID?
Well, because so many of our teachers use Kahoot, every single kid's got that app.
Okay.
And when they're home, that's what they all use their phones instead of something else.
Well, and like today, we were able to log in just doing web-based. I don't have the app, and I'm
Yeah,
able to
you could do it. You could, if you're on an iPad or a phone, use the app, and if you're on a laptop, use the web-based. Either one is fine.
The app was only problems I ran into when I would assign it as homework, or if the kids asked me to make it available so they could take it again at home to do more review. And then they needed the app when it was for homework. So quizzes lets you do that same idea, but you can do it. They don't need an app to do it. So I just was curious with Kahoot.
Yep. So 15% of you got all 4 of them right. I really do not read romance. I love science fiction. I like mysteries, historical fiction, romance, not so much. All right, one last question.
I totally read that backwards. I had it right, but backwards.
Yeah.
I always find that with ranking, no matter what kind of ranking problem I use in class, there's always several people, a significant minority that does it backwards, and then they figure it out when we go over things. Cool Chem is still in first place. All right, last question. What's my dream car?
Okay, so ranking questions, you can change your answers. Are there any others?
I don't think so. I don't think so. 4 of you got this one right. I grew up with the original Avengers with Mrs. Peel and John Steed, and I've always wanted his 1926 Bentley. I've always thought that would be, as long as somebody gave you a pile of money to take care of it, would be a cool car to have. All right, so we end the game. It gives you a podium. And you can put the music back on. All right, now, what's really interesting is that you can get a report. One of the things I'm gonna quit out of this. I'm gonna go back into, hang on. That, go back to share. Oh, what did just happened?
Can you get back into your pair deck? Because that one was updating pretty well previously.
Yeah, hang on. I just lost like all of my little, oh. My new version of Chrome, if you pull on one of the tabs too hard, it separates from all the other tabs, and it's driving me insane.
But then if you drag it back, it'll go back in.
Yeah, but it's like in between those times, then my fingers have gone someplace else.
Of course, of course. But it also helps with split screen.
So while this is reloading, the cool thing about Kahoot academically are the reports. So I do, that's not where I want to be. I do recommend that you get at least the Pro. For $3 a month, because it gives you advanced reports. So once you play at Kahoot, either then or 2 months later, you can go in and find out how every single student did on every single question. It will rank the questions for you, so you can find out which were the problematic questions that most kids missed. It will rank students for you, so you can quickly find who are the students that really struggled in that Kahoot to pull in for remediation. So I love the reports. And it does give you some more question types. I don't think the premium is necessarily worth it unless you really want to play school-size games. I think the limit to a regular Kahoot is something like 40 or 50 people when most of us don't have classes that are that big. And there's a couple other really fancy question types, but I haven't found that that was particularly useful. Our school I just found out today, our school's getting Kahoot Pro for everybody in the building, which is awesome. So
Can you change the time limit for each type of question, or is it automatic? Okay.
Let me go into, yeah, when you build a question, if I go into, I think that's the right one. All right. Suppose I wanted to edit, here it is, this Kahoot. And I go back to, so I picked a particular question. You pick the, all right, let me go back to this question here. I picked a particular question. I picked the amount of time. I'm just gonna move the people over a little bit. Set a new time limit. You can actually set different points for different questions. You can duplicate a slide. You can put some slides. It's very useful if you have a particular set of answers in a multiple choice question to stick it in your question bank, because then you could pull it up without retyping in all of those questions. So if you've got, like, I don't know, ionic bonds, polar covalent bonds, non-polar covalent bonds, if you don't want to retype those for every single question, put the question in your question bank, and then you can always change the question and still have all your answer choices the same. So yeah, you can change all of those kinds of things. You can add, you know, delete slides, add them. You could test them, which is very nice. Once you've done them, test them, because I often find that I've got the wrong answer someplace. You can, One of the things that's kind of cool is that you can put them into folders. So I have my Kahoots divided by folder, and there is a place to share Kahoots. So if two of you are teaching the same thing, you can share your Kahoot with the other person, or like, you make the one on this and I'll make the one on that. So yeah, let me see. I think I have this one. Gotta go back. Reports. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is reports. And they keep fixing this. So from today, all right, the selfie that we just, no, that one's not up there yet. But series or parallel circuits, this was one that one of my physics classes did remotely. So it said that there was one really difficult question, and it goes through that, but you can ask for all the questions, and it will tell you what percentage of kids got each question right. And you can actually dive into that question and find out which wrong answers were very common. You can also dive into each player and find out how each player did. And if I dive into Sam M, then I know exactly how he did on every single question. And those are stored indefinitely. It can be useful to rename those if you give it a second time. You may want to give a Kahoot partway through teaching and then give it again as a review. And so you can retype the thing like, you know, second try, or my second period class. So I find this to be really useful for formative assessment. The kids are getting answers really quickly. I use our school platform. Schoology has awesome quizzes too, but the kids like the game format on this one, which they don't see on the others.
One question, chem-wise. In some types of formats, you can put in a question where the numbers would change for each student. Is that possible in this?
I have not seen that. I will say, by the way, that Kahoot is a little limited in how it writes the questions, but I have found if I wanted to use a bunch of odd symbols, what I do is type it in like a Word document and copy and paste it into Kahoot. And then you could paste anything that you want that has, you know, unusual symbols. By the way, you can use pictures for the answers, and that can be very useful in certain kinds of concepts. So you don't have to, the answer doesn't have to be a word. You can put in any picture file, like the cars, the example I had with the cars.
Sue, can you do subscripts in Kahoot?
I believe you can in the question, but not in the answer. So that's when I was, or maybe it's the other way around. I think Kahoot is one of those programs. I can't remember right now because I've been playing with so many technologies, and some of them allow you to do subscripts and some don't. I think Kahoot is one that maybe now does. They've been really good about updating for people's needs. In fact, I went to an all-day long Kahoot. It's a kind of world event it was at the end of the school year.
And they were really, It was a Kahoot-ference?
Yeah, a Kahoot-ference. And they had all these different kinds of sessions, but they were also looking for feedback, and that they made some changes. They gave everybody pro for from like March to June or July, because of COVID-19. They've done a lot of stuff. So I do have to end at. Oh, that's right. We have a guided discussion in this one. Sorry, I kept forgetting which. I'm doing 3 presentations. I'm getting them confused. So we have until 2:15 for the whole session, and I'll end that a little early in case other people are dashing off to something else. But we have until 2:45 if there are people that want to play with any of these platforms and have me available for question consulting, mentoring while you play. I built that in to this session.
Sue, I have a question for you. Prior to coming to this virtual, I looked on my school district's tech website, whatever, and Kahoot is one of the things that they are not approving. Is there any way that I can explain to them? Because they're changing, they're making us go to Canvas in January, getting out of Google Classroom with very little time to practice, and I'm looking for other things because most of the students I have don't have a lot of internet access or, you know, technology.
Yeah. I would simply say that this is a small learning curve. If they're home, they can play it on a phone or whatever else. That it is an excellent formative assessment tool. Formative assessment seems to be a big buzzword in almost any single district that you talk to. So if you say, I'm going to use it for formative assessment to see how kids are doing as we go through. I often make Kahoots, by the way, that are just, you know, those 5 questions. I mean, we did a marathon one when we were all home in COVID-19 as a review before a big test on chemical bonding that was like 25 questions. And we stopped after each one and went through the answers. And that's the one that I recorded and then posted so the kids could all listen to that discussion. But I'm running into the same thing. Pear Deck was not available in our district because of the Microsoft license that we had. And I had to go to IT, and they said they fixed it. They hadn't, so I ended up putting Pear Deck on my home email and not my school, you know, my home Google account and not my school Google account. It's a continuous issue, and of course every district is different on how much they're willing to listen. So good luck with that. Or send them I'm going to type into my thing here before I forget. This is my email. Oops. Help if you could type, Klemmer. And if you have any questions or you need me to send an email to your techie guys, I'll do that. I could tell them what I use it for. You have an outside expert.
Thank you.
We actually used Kahoot last year for our Spirit Week. We had a school-wide Kahoot. It was, you know, on trivia as opposed to like a Jeopardy thing on trivia. We did it on Kahoot, and the kids loved it because they could do it from wherever they were. We did it over lunchtime, so, you know, whenever they were, they could do it.
Okay.
In closing, I want to say, and then I'll grab other questions, you have to decide for yourself how much mental capacity you've got for new tech and be kind to yourself. I listened to a really great talk by Lily Garcia, the head of the MEA. I was at an RA, and she said, we have all been traumatized by COVID-19, and you have to realize that and stop, you know, you can't pretend that you haven't been affected. So don't hesitate to say no when you need to stop learning something new and go back to the way you know how to do things. I mean, the kids will get what the kids will get. Because if you break down, then they have nothing. So please be kind to yourselves, because we haven't reached the end of this marathon, and a lot of us, you know, I'm still tired from June. I realize I'm not in the same place I normally am with several weeks to go before school is ready, and my capacity is diminished, and you have to recognize that.
So right.
And I found students like I was going to add Edpuzzle during COVID-19, and I was listening to my students at the end of one session, and some of them were asynchronous, but the techies were with me, and even I could hear it in their voice. If I asked them simply to go online to one more place and make an account, something that simple, that was going to break the camel's back. And so I said, nope, it's a cool program. We'll do it some other year.
What's great is if your school's Google, a lot of things like I know with quizzes and stuff, it literally has an option to post directly to Google Classroom. And a lot of them I've noticed, they don't even need a separate account. They can log in with their school email with Google, and it really reduces that because it's not another website they have to go to. It's not another login. It's the same login. The link is right there. So if you are a Google school, that's something to think about when you look at them. If you're not, I'm not sure what Schoology lets you post to because I haven't used it since we went one-to-one in a couple of years. But that's
Schoology does pretty well with links, so that the kids don't have to do a whole lot. They just have to click the link to get there. That's what we use. But yeah, Google Classroom does have some advantages because there's such a huge platform. They are connected to a lot of apps have connected to them.
So I have a quick question about headsets.
Yeah.
Everybody says get one, and I don't really know what some of the parameters are, and I noticed you have one on. Do you have any recommendations?
No, I kind of looked on Amazon and went with something that wasn't super expensive and wasn't super cheap and had a fair number of stars that seemed to be from semi-intelligent people. I use one because I was told when I didn't, my voice wasn't coming through clearly. But this morning, I didn't have a problem. I'm going to be talking about inquiry later this afternoon, and one of the things that we've run into is you cannot have kids on Zoom in your classroom if you also have kids on Zoom from remote, because the kids in the classroom get an echo. They hear things twice. And even with headsets, you can't do it. We were doing some professional development at the end of the school year, and teachers were trying out things with, two or three other teachers in the room to try things out. I do have a workaround that I think might work, but you can't, like, I was going to say, oh, cool, I will pair everybody remotely with somebody in the classroom as a partner, and then the person in the classroom can do the manipulatives and so forth, and you can't do that because the kids in your classroom will implode. Even with a headset on, you get an echo because you hear everything through your Zoom and then the teacher's Zoom.
So two things there. One, don't get the cheap headphones. That's what I did, and they hurt like heck.
Yeah.
So you can't Zoom in the classroom to kids who are remote. Is what you
No,
said?
other way around. If you have kids in your classroom, they can't be on Zoom. So what my plan is that my remote kids will be on Zoom. My laptop that's on Zoom is not going to show my face some of the time. It's going to show the classroom. That's how the kids remotely will see their classmates. The kids in class will see my big screen with the gallery, and if we have a discussion. If you're trying to do teamwork, then the kids in the classroom can collaborate with each other. If you want to have them collaborate with somebody that's remotely, they can't do it on Zoom because of the echo. You can't put kids in the classroom and out of the classroom in a breakout room together. What you could do is simply have the kids start their own Zoom, or work off of Google Hangout or Google Classroom or a Google Doc or whatever, and they can collaborate that way, and you could talk to whoever's in the classroom and thereby connect to the other person. So my plan is that a lot of times my remote kids will be in breakout rooms together, and I can monitor them on my Zoom, and my kids in the classroom are going to be in breakouts together on whatever technology they choose. Luckily, I have older kids that are, I have mostly juniors and seniors that are fairly with it. And in my heterogeneous classes, I usually have enough kids that I can pair somebody up that they won't get behind because of lack of technology. But it is a major issue. You can't, what we all thought in science we could do it first. It's like, oh yeah, if the kids are home, don't have the manipulatives. Just, yeah, it was Echo City.
Giving me a headache.
Yeah. I walked out of that one so frustrated I couldn't think for a week. I just shut down. Well, it is 2:16 by my clock. So those of you that are heading off to other things are welcome to. I will be around until like 3 o'clock. If people want to play with things, I'll just leave my Zoom open if people are playing with things and want to consult on questions. Consider it office hours, if you will.
Sue,
Yeah.
I had a question. It's not about the technology you went over. It was
Go for it.
It was very helpful though, what you went over. It was very helpful. But you had mentioned at the very beginning that at your school they needed a policy for when you're our school is going to go to a hybrid model. I just found out about it just the other day. I haven't read.
We lost your audio.
Oh.
There you go. Now you're back.
Okay. Yeah. So, how were they able to make this new policy so that you have to see the students' faces when you're teaching them remotely? How did that happen?
Well, first of all, we're in Maine, and in Maine, the local school district controls all. There's very little state control. It's all by the town, the local district. So if it gets approved by the board, it's approved, period. And that's what they did. They said, this is the, they made a plan, and that was part of the things that was in the plan, and the board approved it. So boom, that's the way it goes. It's small town government.
All right. So because I would love that. I would love that they could I could see all of them. Because like you said, how do you know they're there otherwise? So.
Yeah, because I know last spring when our only concern was really social and emotional support, they said, our district was really nice. They said, throw out the curriculum. We don't care how much chemistry and physics you cover. Keep connected to your students.
Yeah.
And yeah, the ones that simply put a picture of themselves up, they weren't even there. And you had to chase them over multiple emails and things to get some work in and stuff. It was awful. And we, luckily, they didn't hear us about the synchronous. We really wanted for the blended thing that our students at home could work asynchronously. We could give them a lesson and have something different for the live students and then reverse it, and they didn't want that. They were afraid the kids at home would tune out. So we have to provide that most of the time the remote kids are going to be participating live at the same time. And I don't know how well we're going to, that's going to have a lot of fumbles.
Yeah. It'll definitely be a work in progress.
Yeah, I can't figure out how to do it without having two devices open at the same time. Yeah. And I'm not very good at doing that.
Was all the instruction, I know you just said they kind of said throw out the curriculum, but was anything that you tried to do with instruction done with like things similar to Pear Deck, or was there some like using a whiteboard and stuff? We barely did lessons in the spring, but like we're being more synchronous. So I'm like thinking what approach to start brainstorming.
I did use the whiteboard on Zoom a lot because I'm an old school teacher, so I use the blackboard. I have to draw to talk. That's the way. I don't know how else to teach chemistry and physics. So I would pull up the whiteboard and I'd be drawing on the whiteboard as I was talking when kids had questions about things. And I love having kids being able to, you know, break out and put things on whiteboards and then send me pictures. That was a way of recording, you know, things that like we do some modeling stuff where you use these big giant whiteboards, and you could do that on Zoom with Breakout. They can have a whiteboard. Okay. It's not as good with a laptop as it is with an iPad because of but it still works on a laptop.
Something. Yeah, I'm a whiteboard teacher, so great to hear. If you guys are into like the kids that always like hold up the whiteboards when they work in groups and stuff, something that I have been trying out that my husband, who's a math guy, actually showed me is called whiteboard.fi. I think it's from Finland. I don't know, but basically, if you go to whiteboard.fi and you like make yourself a pretend class, every student, it's like you're looking at the screen of every student, and in real time they can draw their stuff or whatever, and you can see what they've drawn, and then you can save it, and they can see your whiteboard that you like sent out to them. So say you did like at the beginning of a Bohr model and you want to see what the kids are going to do, and it's all at the same time, so you real quickly see who has done what. Virtually.
Yeah, I like that for individual stuff. I like the breakout rooms for group whiteboarding. You know, you give them a time limit. You got 5 minutes to go, or depending on how complicated the problem is, you got 15 minutes to solve this problem. Come back and share it on the whiteboard, and everybody sends it in. But that was whiteboard.fi. Lost your voice, Kara.
Oh, Kara, you're mute.
Was that whiteboard.fi? Can you put it in the chat?
Yeah, that was whiteboard.fi. But what kind of equipment do you need for this? Do you need iPads?
No, it's just well, it's a pain if you're using a mouse or whatever, but if you have any sort of it takes whatever screen you've got. You don't need any extra software or anything. If you just have a stylus on your phone, that can work too. Or if you have the Chromebooks that have the touch screen, that helps also. Yeah, it's free.
One of my indulgences this summer was to finally buy an Apple Pencil for my iPad, and oh my God, the increase in control that I've got in the stuff that I send out to kids. You know, when I draw on things or write on things, they can all read it, and it was really worth it. Also works with a program that I'm going to talk about tomorrow called Explain Everything, which is my favorite tutorial builder.
I love Explain Everything.
Yeah, and
Apple Pencil is a game changer. Like,
yes,
highly recommend if you have an iPad, buy an Apple. It's so worth it. Changes everything.
Make sure you get the right one.
Yeah, which one?
Yeah,
it depends upon. You got to look at the model of your iPad.
Yeah.
Make sure you know the model of your iPad, and then go online, and it'll tell you whether you need Apple Pencil 1 or Apple Pencil Generation 2.
Which one do you have? Which one do you like?
Yeah.
Well, you have to get the one that fits your iPad. You don't have a choice. It's whatever works with your iPad. I bought the wrong one, the Generation 2. Luckily, eventually, we're going to get Generation 2, so I just packed it away. I hope I know where I put it. But Generation 1 is the only one that works with my iPad.
Okay. So if I was to buy one now, because I don't have one, and that's one of my things before school starts is to buy one. So
look at your model. I don't know, you know, I don't have them memorized, but look at the model. And when you go online to the Apple Store or Amazon or wherever you're going to get it, it will tell you in the list, you know, Generation 1 is compatible with this, and Generation 2 is compatible with this.
Okay.
Yeah, go to Amazon and just say Apple Pencil and list your model, come up. If you know that you have to pay attention, it's not that hard to figure out. It's not that hard to get the right one. Usually the mistake happens when you think they're all the same.
Yeah, which was my mistake.
Yeah.
I have a bamboo sketch stylus because I think my iPad's so old that none of the pencils work with it. And this is the trick I saw on somebody's blog to eliminate like marks. So just take a glove and cut off the fingertips so that it doesn't leave marks. So that worked out okay for me. Not perfect, but
nice.
You can also spend less money on just get a good stylus.
Yeah.
I'll hold it up. I think y'all can see it. It's the one with the little round tip. It's under $10, but it's all the difference. So if you don't have the Apple Pen, this will still give you a good writing.
What's the difference between just a regular stylus and the Apple Pen? Because maybe I never knew there was something better.
For one thing, it doesn't pick up your hand, so you don't need the glove. I don't know, Sue. It makes everything easier.
Yeah,
it's really like writing on a piece of paper.
The pencil syncs to your device, so any variation, like you want to change the size of the point, you press harder, you get a wider. It's just really, and I'm coming from the era where you wrote everything out by hand, and when you had finished your final copy, then you typed it up on your manual typewriter. So even though I've used a typewriter for decades, I'm still most comfortable with handwriting, and boy, I can go really fast with an Apple Pencil.
Yeah. And if anybody out there uses Canvas and you have an iPad, get the Canvas app on your iPad and grade through Canvas. If the kids upload it as a file, you can write right on it with the Apple Pen. I gave more feedback to my kids this spring than I ever have. It was really nice. So I'm sure Schoology, the other things have the iPad app, but for Canvas it was great.
Eileen, this is Steve Sheff. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Sue, I finally get to meet you. I'm an hour down the road on Route 1 from you at Lincoln Academy. So.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And I've known a lot of
students. Is Libby still rocking the math?
Libby is still rocking the free world.
Because our students are like, we can beat everybody in the math leads except Lincoln Academy.
Yeah. I'm not sure about this year though. But anyway, so thank you. Yeah, thanks for doing this. The ideas you guys shared were great because my biggest problem, I teach chemistry and physics, and I graduated from college in '84 from UC Davis, and I'm a writer too. So I love writing on the whiteboards. I love writing, and my biggest issue this year was like when I was right in the middle of my favorite unit on like chemical reactions and redox and stuff, and writing equations and writing and doing physics problems on a computer is a pain in the ass. And so I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it. And I think the iPad probably is
zoom from an iPad with your pencil on a whiteboard.
Because that was so frustrating. I brought whiteboards home, so I did some whiteboard things, but it was like asynchronous, and it's not the same. So I have to be able to write it. I'm too slow typing, exponents and all that stuff. So that's a great idea for that. So you got the iPad with Apple Pencil, and somebody said we have Canvas where I am, so you can actually take like a Google Doc from Canvas and actually write on it.
Yeah, so a couple things that we discovered this spring, if you've got an iPad and Canvas, one, you also probably want to get an app that used to be free, and I think it's a few bucks. It's called Notability or something.
Oh, yes, Notability.
Because what you do is you email yourself a PDF of a worksheet. You open it up in Notability, you share your iPad in the Zoom screen, and then you write on the worksheet and you solve it with the kids, or you just share a blank page and you're writing on your iPad with the kids.
Yeah.
It was, like I said, just a game changer for us. And then with Canvas, you can share a Google Doc, but it's best if they download their Google Doc as a PDF and then upload it as a file, because then you can write in the Canvas app, right on the page, and then you just sort of like done, and the feedback gets to them in 2 seconds.
So, well, the kids, so the other problem was sending like a physics couple problems, and, and the kids who had printers at home could print out like the Google Doc or the PDF, and then they were writing the problems, and then they take a screenshot and send it back to me.
Use Notability. So they download their the worksheet onto Notability, and then either on a laptop or an iPad, they can hand write out all those equations, and then they electronically send you the completed worksheet. It's paperless.
The other thing that's nice is if they're working on a piece of paper, almost all of them have an iPhone. I know not all kids do. Everyone at my school does because we're fancy, but I'm at a private school, so I've got some advantages. The Note app on your iPhone has a scanning function. They just scan it, they send it to whatever device they're uploading it to Canvas, and they upload those files. So even if your worksheet's on the screen, they can write on the piece of paper, they can scan it and upload it right into Canvas for you. And anybody with an iPhone, and I'm sure other phones, but there's a scanning app that's free right in the Notes piece. So
awesome.
It's very easy to use. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was like everybody else, kind of overwhelmed and missing being in the classroom and all that stuff. So it was a hard adjustment. And so we're going back, Sue. Probably our headmaster's pretty conservative, so we're probably only going to go back and see the kids once a week at the beginning. I was hoping for more because I think Maine's in pretty good shape with everything, but he doesn't want to have to go backwards. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we have 3 levels. So at the moment we're green, so everybody's going back, but we also have a plan that if things uptick, then we go to hybrid 50-50, because we had a plan where half the class, A to K would come in and L to Z were remote or total remote. So the program that we've been talking about is Notability. Oops, I can't spell.
Yeah, there's some others too.
The other one that some people like, I don't like it as much, but if you use Google Docs, there is a program called Google Draw that's part of Google Docs. I find it very klutzy, but those people that are like wedded to Google Docs, I have some people that like it, but I find that it's not nearly as versatile. Notability, and the other thing I'm going to teach my kids with Notability as we move to things paperless is Notability allows you to create folders. We all have students who are, I call them the black hole backpacks. It goes in, there's no organization, it never comes out. Well, in Notability, you can create files and folders within folders. So they can have a folder for chemistry, a folder for English, a folder for math, and then inside that you could even do it by units or whatever. So I'm going to try to help them. If they're going to be mostly paperless, they need to be, which they are resisting. It's amazing how many kids want paper. It's like, dude.
Yeah, that's how I am. I'm the same way. Like, I took a class. They offered a class last month for us, and I can't read off on computers. I hate reading on computers. So I like to download it because I like to write on everything and highlight and stuff. Like, that's how I learned chemistry and physics in college. And so it's like, and I never used Google Docs until I moved to Lincoln Academy. I used Apple's and Microsoft DOCX's for years. And so.
Yeah, the college courses are paperless.
Yeah. So I can relate to we missed the industrial revolution of computers when we went to college.
Hey, I got my first calculator when I think I was a junior in PChem. Calculators came out in the PChem. Before that, it was slide rules. So I learned in high school with a slide rule.
I had a calculator that was this big.
Yeah, you remember when they were the size of a big paperback and you had to plug them in? They had reverse Polish logic.
The youngins are all laughing at us right now.
Yeah. I also remember when my first school went from a Mimeo and we got our first Xerox machine.
Yep.
When I first started teaching, you could not scan a page from a book and give it to kids. That was a game changer.
Yeah. And you had to get all the purple off you all the time too.
Oh yeah, but the kids all went.
Yeah. Not just the kids.
My master's thesis was typed with all the drawings done by hand.
Mine too.
I was the first.
Paper.
I was the first year as a senior in college where we had this brand new thing called a word processor, and it did wonderful things. It remembered paragraphs and it numbered things and it saved space for footnotes. But I did have to put, and I remember it to this day, although I don't know why, 47 equations in on 5 copies of my senior thesis because, of course, it couldn't handle all that stuff. And it was on the sprocket paper. It was, you sent in your order and then you picked it up. But we were cool because we got to use a word processor and we didn't have to use cards. We actually had terminals to type into. So, but my senior thesis was on some quantum mechanics stuff, and the program had to run at night because it took up so much space on the mainframe. And the program was 1K because the mainframe was a DEC 10. You know, the entire university was being run off of 10K.
Yep. Hey, is there a way that I really enjoy like being able to talk like this and share ideas and stuff. I have a good department and everything, but sometimes it's good to just somebody from another school has different ideas because I've never heard of Notability in my life. So, and it sounds like exactly what I need to learn how to do to make physics teaching and all that. So it would be great if somehow, I mean, we're going to all get busy in a month and be like, you know, craziness, but to share ideas or something through the New England Association of Chemistry Teachers.
Well, we do have the Chem Chats, which I started.
Yep.
But if you wanted, I don't know how full your brain is, but if you wanted to use today or tomorrow's coffee hour, happy hour, to do a little group on Notability, I'd be very pleased to do that because I am like a Notability, like I'm in love with Notability. That's what I do when I go to conferences myself. I just bring my iPad, and I used to do it just with my mini iPad. Now I have a big iPad.
Yeah, when I take all my notes on Notability too. The other thing, I think maybe Sue said this, but the other thing, I started flipping my classroom about 8 years ago, and Explain Everything is just huge if you want to make a video.
I'm going to do that tomorrow at, I don't remember when.
9:30.
Yeah, sometime tomorrow morning. I'm going to do a whole thing on Explain Everything, which to me is much more sophisticated than doing just like a screencast of yourself talking, but much less klutzy or involved than doing iMovie, which of course has lots of options if you're doing stuff. I find it very versatile.
A little different too. It's a little Khan Academy style-ish.
Yeah, it's a good way to say it.
If people want to see what they look like, you can go to YouTube and find my channel. It's under my name, which I put in the chat. And you got to find the Boston Bruins logo. But if you click on that, you'll find about 150, 200 videos. They're all public. You're welcome to use them in your classes, but they're videos I've been making sort of the last maybe 10 years, 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, if you don't have a video channel, our school gave us all YouTube channels, but it saves so much space because all that stuff that you make is there instead of sitting on your computer or some other server or whatever. So I'm actually going to talk about that at the end of the Explain Everything on how you compile them and then send them over there. And then you just give the kids a link.
Sounds great. Thank you guys so much. Awesome. Eileen, you going to watch the game tonight?
Oh, heck yeah. They better get their act together.
Yeah. Yep. I'm a pretty diehard Bruin fan, so we used to play, my kids, Sue went to John Baptist, so we played Camden Rockport all the time in sports. Yeah. I knew, I actually coached with
This is my phone.
Dave Daniello. I don't know if you knew the Daniellos, but and then I played against like a lot of those kids, that great kids. My son played with a Camden summer team, and we went to Niagara Falls, did some tournaments with some of those kids that graduated about probably 7 or 8 years ago, you know. Good group. So I know a lot of the people. I got to head out now. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And Steve, don't be, you know, we are only, as you said, an hour down the road, but the email's instantaneous, you know, Zoom is instantaneous. We should get together a mid-coast kind of a chat group, because there's so many of us that are the onlys.
Well, it's weird because we're kind of out of the loop, because I didn't even know, when I lived up in Bangor, I didn't really know the Mid-Coast existed down here.
You lived in Bangor?
Yeah, I lived in Bangor. Are you?
Yeah. I'm in Rhode Island now, but that's where I'm from.
Oh, I taught up in that area. I taught at John Baptist, and I taught at Orono High School.
I went to the Bangor High, but.
Yeah.
Awesome. My mom's from Millinocket, and well, my parents met at the University of Maine.
Really?
Decided to repopulate the earth. Like, what good little Irish Catholics they were.
I'm from away, as they say, but I have been in Maine since '88. So yeah, I spent my first 2 years in Bangor, and then lucked into being here on the mid-coast.
Yeah, it's a good place.
Hey, Kathy Siak, I just saw your face.
You know, I haven't bumped into you at all this
I know,
last
Rhode
couple
Island.
of days. Wow. I am from Rhode Island. I was born in Rhode Island. I'm still in Rhode Island. But I visited Maine. You know.
I sent you a thing. If we do go to Colby next year, one of the places I haven't visited in a long time, which is really cool, is there is a glass and ceramic museum just outside of Portland.
Ooh.
One of their rooms is fakes. So they have like the actual real expensive piece and then somebody's fake.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And I'm sure because of the artisans in the area, we can get somebody to talk to us about the chemistry of glass and then do a field trip to the museum. It would not be far from Colby.
That would be great.
Awesome.
That would be great.
A funky museum.
Exciting. Going on vacation anywhere would be pretty exciting right about now, but
yeah.
Oh well, here I am in my study again.
You know, the supermarket is a big trip.
Yeah. I take my dad out to dinner once a week among the few restaurants that we really trust at doing it right, and that's my big. Oh, although we did, Owl's Transportation Museum got together with the Strand and are doing drive-in movie nights, which are kind of cool. They stretch a big screen on the outside of the museum, and you sit with your car in a field and you use your radio for the audio.
That's cool.
And they tried it with a museum film first.
I gotta go.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. And so the Strand is doing. They do, I think, 3 nights a week, and they're classics, like they did E.T., I think, 1 week or something, you know, something that they could get a hold of. But and it's $20 a car, which is not bad.
For you young ones, guys, us older people, we used to go to drive-ins.
There was a high school. Did you guys read about the high school in New York that did their graduation that way?
I think that's fantastic.
They had one of the few remaining drive-ins left. So they did their graduation at the drive-in, and then they all watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah. Oh. Awesome.
Hey, how was Leslie's presentation, Jerusha?
It was good. It was good. I was going back and forth. But she was talking about something I knew. I was listening to you, and you were talking about something I knew I listened to her. I just wanted to be everywhere at once. Yeah, no, it's there's so much good stuff out there. I always feel like I need a good week after the NEACT meetings to like sit down and like figure it all out, because it just is so much information, so many great ideas at once.
I had a question about the Notability. I haven't used that. So the students, they all need to have some kind of like touch screen in order to modify the document?
It works better. Can you hear me, by the way? I took off my headset.
Yep.
It works better with a touch screen, but you can use it with, you know, a trackpad. You can use it with a laptop. That's just kind of clunky. So if you want the ease of, like, I'm writing on a notepad, then yeah, you need some kind of a tablet with a touch screen, and that's where it really comes into its own as a powerful tool. But it can be used on a laptop. We have a physics class that is normally given a workbook that they turn in every day, and we've been trying to figure out how to do that when some of them are remote. And so we're going to have the kids, I'm going to have the kids choose Notability or Google Docs with Google Draw, and they're going to, you know, do all of the, you know, I'll send them out the work. They upload it into whichever form they want, but it'll be paperless.
And even if the kids don't have it, I think it's a game changer just for a teacher to have it.
Yes.
Is there an equivalent for like Windows or Chromebooks? Just because I just looked at it, it looks like it's only for like Apple products. Does anyone know?
I don't know. We're mostly an Apple school. I thought Notability was cross-platform, but I may be wrong.
Sue, can I share my screen? Do you have the ability to let me do that?
Let me see if I can remember how to do that.
It's under.
I may take Jerusha. Are you still here?
I am, but Catherine's the host, so she's going to have to.
Okay, Catherine, are you still here?
Or you could make me the host because I know how to do it, Catherine.
Just go to share screen and pick advanced.
Yep. Oh, that's right.
I'll just show you how I share my iPad with the kids and.
Hang on, I got it.
Example.
It says all participants can share, so you should be able to grab it.
Yeah, I just changed that.
Now I can.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Catherine.
I'm going to try to share my iPad. Hang on a sec. And let's see, share. So this is in Notability. It's a worksheet that I put in there. So I just put this in here, and then while I was in class, I was going through the problem with the kids. So like I can write on my screen and write my notes to them so they get to see everything that I'm doing. Now, if they have one, that's nice too, because then they can share it with me. But even if they don't, just having access to this made all the difference for the kids in the world. If I were doing this problem on the board, I teach 9th grade physics in this particular class. Half the kids are, you know, picking their noses. But on Zoom, it's right in front of their face, and it's almost like they can't look away. So,
Eileen, do you post, like when you finish something like this, do you post that completed page someplace?
I might. I think this was happening during office hours.
Ah, okay.
Yep. I was helping some kids, but if I pick up another worksheet, so this one here, again, we were going through, I think in class, I said, you guys have questions, so we were working through, and I think you'll notice the writing is pretty neat. That's the difference that Apple Pencil makes.
There's also a magnify function.
Yeah.
So if kids are using, particularly if they're using a laptop, if they hit magnify, then they can write more easily.
Yeah.
How are you able to show this?
Yep.
And at the same time be on the camera? Like it's almost as if there's two screens that you're doing at once. How is that happening?
So when you run a Zoom meeting and you share your screen, you're sharing your screen, but your face is still there.
Right.
I'm simply sharing my iPad screen. So when you go to the share button, you'll have some choices. One of them is share your screen. One is to share your iPhone or iPad screen. So that's what I'm doing now. And this is all Notability. So what I would do is just email myself a PDF of the worksheet I wanted, put it into Notability and have it ready to go either for office hours or class. But I could also just like say, okay, you guys, here we go. Let me change the paper. Now I've got a graph paper. Now I've got line paper. Now I've got funny little dots. Got bigger graph paper. You know what I mean? I got a blank page. So we can just, you can write. And I think you guys can write on this also. If you take your mouse, I think you can write on this. Somebody want to try?
I'm using my trackpad and no. Can I clarify, Eileen? So you're on your laptop.
You need to go to annotate. That's all. Sorry, if you go to annotate, y'all can write stuff here. You choose annotate, you can say draw, text, stamp. So kids could, like label the sources.
Annotate.
Next to share. When you.
Yeah, I don't see annotate.
It's there somewhere. You got to slide it around till the stupid thing. Some of those things are hard to find.
Okay, can I just want to say something back to you to make sure that I got it straight.
Yes.
So you're on Zoom on your laptop.
Yes.
But you can share a screen from another device from your. Because what I've been doing is signing myself in on both devices, which has.
No, I started that way, and you get an echo, and it's so blooming.
Exactly. Oh, this is a game changer, Eileen.
Yeah, and it's nice because watch this. I'll be talking to the kids, and I'll be like, "Oh, hang on, you guys. I don't want to do that. Let me go back to my computer, and I'll just share my desktop. So now y'all looking at my desktop, and then I can say, "Oh, I don't want to do that. Let me go and I'll share a whiteboard." I think you all know how to share a whiteboard, right? You can just have a whiteboard out there that I can write on. So this is fine, but I'd rather use my iPad because I can use the Apple Pen, where now I'm trying to use my trackpad, and I've gotten pretty good at it, but you know, it's still a little challenging.
Yeah, I agree. I tried using that. That's a game changer. I actually have to leave so I can do something before I get ready for my next presentation.
Sue, I'm running your next one too. So you want me just to open it at 3?
That'll be perfect.
Okay.
I'm again going to put my, because I feel bad kind of leaving a little soon.
I'll stop sharing so somebody else can try it if they want.
Yeah, so I'm the host. So when I leave to set up her next one, this is going to end. So I will leave this going until, what do you say, maybe 3:05, Susan?
Yeah, that'd be great.
And then, okay, thanks, Sue.
And I just put in the chat again my email, so if people come up with questions later, just email me. One of the things that NEACT really tries to emphasize is that while we love our conferences, because we never stop talking to one another, it shouldn't stop at the end of the conference. Keep the talk going. All right, see you guys a little later. This has been fantastic. The best part about presenting is how much you learn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you were saying, so I was looking in the notes, somebody had said that they like notify better than good notes, Notability better than OneNote.
Yeah, I do.
My friend, it's not an Apple. I got a, I don't remember what the type is, but it's got a whole tablet as part of it. Yep. And she always uses OneNote with it. Yep. What are the advantages of Notability versus OneNote?
You know, I'm not sure. I think a lot of us have a preference based on what we've gotten comfortable with. I think most of them do the same thing. As long as they have, that you can put things in folders, that makes a difference. And as long as you can export a PDF into it, so it's not just you writing notes, then I think they're all fine. I would just play around with them and pick when you like. I think OneNote is fine. I think GoodNote is fine. I think most, and I don't know why, but most people who have tried Notability prefer that. It's become quite popular at my school. Last spring, as we discovered all the things that we could do with Notability and iPads and Apple Pens and like the stuff I just showed you, it opened up a whole new way of communicating with kids that even if they don't have Notability, I can do all those things I just showed you. So it's like writing on a whiteboard, but right in front of their faces. They really, and because we're in Canvas and I have the app, my grading in Canvas, I mean, I could share that and show people too, but it only matters to you if you have Canvas. But it just, the grading, all this, you know, the grading became so easy. It became so much less of a chore to give kids feedback because you just open it up and as they come in, you write them some notes and you send it off, you know? So it was nice.
Eileen?
I don't want to monopolize, but happy to answer questions because if you're not sure what I'm talking about, I was there with you about 4 months ago.
I have to go. Oh, sorry. I just want to say thanks everyone for all the info and help.
Me too.
Eileen, you did say that you've got a lot of info for technology, and we don't have a whole lot, and I'm not sure what they're going to get for us, and this is going to show how ignorant I am on a lot of these things. So when you were talking about whiteboard, could you explain? Because I have no idea.
Sure. Are you on a laptop right now?
Yeah, I have my MacBook Pro.
Oh, do you see that in the bottom in the middle is a green thing that says share screen?
Yeah.
Go ahead and click on it.
Okay. Oh, well,
so
this is the first time it let me do that. It wasn't letting me do that before.
That's because the monitor, because we're in a big conference, turned off screen sharing for everybody, but they just turned it on so we could talk to each other. So the default is that you can share your desktop screen. Just to the right of that, it should just say whiteboard.
Yeah.
Next step over, it should say your iPad.
Of which
yeah, and you want to open up a Zoom meeting with yourself and just play with these things and see how to share. It's a little tricky with the iPad. I don't know what iPad you have. Most of them
I'm going to have to purchase one. I don't have one right now.
Then what I tell you would be meaningless. So,
okay.
Can you?
Is it only Zoom that has this? Does Google Meets offer something like that?
See, we don't have Google Meet, so I don't have Google Classroom or Google Meet. We use Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, but that's it. We don't, because we use Canvas and that's our LMS.
How to use Google Meets instead of Zoom.
How do you get to whiteboard again?
So do you see do you see the share screen?
Yep.
Why don't you go ahead and click on that?
I did.
And then click on whiteboard.
Oh, I don't see that. I don't see whiteboard.
Okay. Well, we may have different Zoom.
Yeah, I actually,
packages.
Weirdly enough, I'm on my school Zoom account, which should be whiteboard.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you don't have that there. Here's a whiteboard.
Eileen,
yes.
You said you have Canvas. My district is, because we're in Manchester, New Hampshire, we've been told they're going to change over in January. We can have our Google Classroom up until then. I'm not sure how they're going to get us to learn everything, but you really like Canvas because they haven't told us anything about it.
I am indifferent. I'm at my 5th school and they all had a different LMS and they're all fine. They all do lots of stuff. I've never used Google Classroom, but Canvas.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody's writing. Yeah, no, I mean, we've got our entire, if somebody wants to stop sharing, I'll show you, so I've got my entire, I'll do it pretty quickly. If I go to my course in Canvas, so we're working in a shell right now, but we're putting our entire course online so that everything's available. You can put pages, discussion boards, quizzes. you can set it up so that, you know, they're going to do a lab and they're going to submit it to me. And then once they send it to me, you know, they've got rubrics that you can modify, but they're going to submit this to me. I'm going to change this to, it's going to say as a file. And then I open it on my iPad and I can write all over it. It's pretty robust, and so I'm a big video maker, so I usually use YouTube, but this has got Studio. You put your videos right in there and link them, and kids just click on them. And the nice thing is when they watch them, like I know we're running out of time, but I'm happy to, if people are interested in stuff, I'm happy to. That doesn't exist yet. Hang on. I'm going to go to my chemistry course instead, because I know there's a bunch of videos in there that actually exist. So here's one on Bohr's model. The nice thing about Canvas is you put it into Studio, and so they click, all they're going to do is click play on this video. But the nice thing is down below, there's a comment section. So they can write comments back and forth. And if you hit Insights, it will tell me who has watched the video and who has not. So I would say Canvas is pretty robust, and it's as good as anything else. But I don't know what y'all have, so I don't know that it's better or worse.
Well, it's better than what we have. Okay.
Yeah. It takes some learning to figure out, but you got to just play.
Thank you.
And write my email down and contact me in December or January if you want to. And I'm not even, you know, there's people in my school who are way better at than I am, but we'll see, I've got it. My email is in the chat. It's up. If someone asks, do you see it? Yeah. It's esullivan@hotchkiss.org.
Yep. I came in late. I was in another.
Oh, here you go.
Zoom.
No worries. esullivan@hotchkiss. We've got the new and exciting adventure of boarding school and bringing all the kids to campus in a couple weeks.
Where are you anyway?
What could possibly go wrong? We are in the northwest corner of Connecticut, in the middle of nowhere. So we have that going for us.
Oh, I know.
I don't think you're allowed to sneeze anymore.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, we're in the literally in the northwest corner of Connecticut.
Okay.
Boarding school, but it's pretty rural, so we're about as green a spot as you can get right now. A lot of parents want to send their kids here because it's a lot safer here than it is wherever they are right now.
Eileen, you're really right. You can't sneeze. I have allergies. I sneezed into my mask and a guy went running at the grocery store.
Yeah. Well, do you know like people who like sneeze when they see the sun?
Yeah.
I'm one of those.
Me.
My whole family. It was funny when we used to get out of the car at church. It was like machine gun fire. You know, like 10 or 12 of us would get out of the car and start sneezing. So.
I sneeze in the morning.
I sneeze in the morning. I sneeze
at around 5.
Oh, I sneeze constantly. It's hilarious. And if somebody wants to glare, they can glare.
And those who have allergies, azolastine is my friend. Because as soon as I get into a sneezing fit, I can go up to 50 or beyond. I just use this from my allergist gave me a prescription and it stops it.
You know, I never believed it, but I tried it this spring. Local honey actually does work. I didn't believe it, but it does. I just started this and my allergies have been way better. All right, we're going off track and Drew's just got to go. So
yeah, I've got to stop this so I can set up the next one.
Yeah, I want to go to Sue's next one. So I'll see you all later. Nice talking to you.
And Aileen, I just want to say one thing. I would love it if you would volunteer to run a workshop at some point. You know, because
sure.
you know a lot of this stuff now, and you can see sometimes people know a lot about it, but there's always people who don't know anything. And even if you know a little bit, it's always nice to do it. So I'd love to have you do that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I do flipped classroom workshops at my school.
Perfect.
Because I feel very strongly about what that should look like.
Yeah. Well, I'm currently the NEACT Northern Division Chair, so I might just grab onto you to do one of our workshops.
Sure, sounds cool.
Thanks.
All right, bye y'all.
All right, bye everybody.
Bye.